Welcome to Feels Like Weezer, where we're discussing the all the tracks and songs from Weezer, one at a time. I'm Eric Nash from Watchmen Minute.
And I'm Zach Frackensmith. You can follow me on Twitter at The Informal Log.
Yeah, how you doing, Zach?
Oh, I'm doing great.
Good.
We're starting a new album today.
That's right. This is the Unreal first episode for the Green Album.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You know what I'm most excited about, Eric?
What's that?
I don't have to talk about Pinkerton ever again if I don't want to.
If you don't want to.
If I don't want to. I mean, I will, because that's just what I do. But I have the choice at this point to not talk about Pinkerton.
Am I not going to be able to force you to talk about it at some point in the future? Say,
All I'm
Zach,
saying is,
come on.
all I'm
have to
saying
talk
is,
about Pinkerton
if you mention Pinkerton around me, you better watch your back. All right, man. No, I'm kidding. I don't know where you live besides the general vicinity of a state. So, but yeah, today we're going to be talking about the Green Album.
That's right.
Yeah, it's our Green Album special. So we're just kind of going to go and we'll tell you a little tale, Eric. Right. How about that? Would you like to hear a little story?
I would. It's story time with Zach.
Yeah, it's story time with Zach. Yeah. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna kind of chronicle what happened between the release of Pinkerton and the release of the Green Album, because this was when the hiatus happened. They didn't release an album for like 5 years.
Almost 5 years.
Yeah, and so a lot of stuff happened in between there.
Some good, some bad.
Yeah, mostly okay. Mostly good stuff, I think. I don't know. We'll find out here. Are you ready? Are you ready?
I am sitting comfortably.
Okay.
You didn't ask. Are you sitting comfortably?
I heard on the John Tesh radio show today that you should actually sit on the edge of your seat because it engages your abs better. So, I mean, are you sitting on the edge of your seat?
No.
Okay.
My knees will hit my desk if I...
I don't have that problem. I'm really short, so that's why on all of our covers I'm like a foot shorter than Eric, if you can tell. I'm pretty sure
why
Eric's
you did
taller
that.
than me.
Like,
Well, I'm like 5'8.5",
oh.
and I'm just guessing you're like 6'5" or something. I don't know. So
Would seem so.
I'm just like, yeah, I'm a little bit shorter than Eric. Okay, so 1997. 2 years after Pinkerton was released, or was it? When was Pinkerton released? I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure 96, because Green Album was 2001. We keep saying 5 years, but it was at the end of 96, and Green is
right
middle May of 2001.
Right. Yep. 96. Yeah. Why don't I just pull out my CD and take a look? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we're gonna start in 1997. I was 5 years old, so I was not aware of Weezer, but it's kind of good because things were not looking good for Weezer at this point. Pinkerton obviously wasn't a success, like they thought it would be. Critics didn't like it. They thought it was amateurish and whiny, and fans were disappointed. Because of the shift of tone, from the Blue Album to this. And this really surprised me, because a lot of the information that I got this from was from John Larson's book, River's Edge, The Weezer Story, which Eric and I are both reading. Have you finished it yet?
No. I've gotten a little waylaid.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am, too. I stopped about to the Green Album, and I'm like, eh.
I didn't go. I just other things in life have gotten.
Oh, right. Yeah, we have lives outside of podcasting.
Yeah.
I know, it's really weird. So, but what surprised me most was that Rivers is, he's kind of a control freak, and he was almost like mad with power, and he had to be on screen for like 75% of the videos that they would do, or something like that.
Yeah. And that,
Yeah.
that ratio seems off, because shouldn't it be essentially 25%, because he's 1/4 of the band, but in his mind,
Right.
seemingly.
Yeah, exactly. And especially since he produced this album, blah, blah, blah. And so one other thing that he would do was he would pay the other band members based on what he believed they brought to the band, which I think is a little weird. But during this time, and you can we talked about this a little bit during Pinkerton, you could see that he was pretty ashamed of what came out from Pinkerton, So after the tour was over, he moved to Boston. He was either going to finish school or drop out and play music on his own. So he did most of going back to school. I think he has like 2 semesters left. But he ended up, quitting to play music. So Pat Wilson, he went his own way to play in The Special Goodness, which is his own band. Brian Bell, he was working on demos for the Space Twins. So everybody's kind of doing their own thing, but the biggest problem came in the form of Matt Sharp. As we all know, bassist and founding member of Weezer, he split from the band at that point so he could focus on his group, The Rentals, in 98. So there's always been some speculation as to whether this was an amicable break or not. Rivers and Matt both say that it was, and that they don't have any hard feelings towards each other, but kind of based on what we saw during the creation of Pinkerton, and especially those latter few months of the tour and everything, it probably wasn't the case. That's speculation on my part, but a lot of people thought Matt was kind of a jerk, and both Matt and Rivers have these personalities,
especially especially the band members of his
oh yeah
band he was leading,
which Maya Rudolph was in that band.
All that. Yeah, right.
There's a lot of surprising things I've learned from that book, but that takes the cake for me, that Maya Rudolph played in Matt Sharp's band, The Rentals.
Well, do you know the other SNL member that had a band? Probably about the same time, I would say,
who?
actually. Fred Armisen.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Well, and how he came in, I mean, what he was doing, especially in his first year or two, I would say, roughly, of being on the show, it seemed like he kind of had these music, related things, skits that he was in more so than others. But he was a drummer for the band Trenchmouth.
Really?
Yeah.
God, I love Fred Armisen. He's so good. His what's it, in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I think.
Oh, really? Has he been on that? Well, what I saw him most recently in was Jane Silent Bob reboot.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but I want to. Mm-hmm. It sounds so good. Anyway, so basically, the band's they kept saying on their website that they're not broken up, they're still going to play together, blah blah blah, and all that, but nothing was really showing that was going to happen. Because Rivers was alone in Boston, so all he did was write songs, but he felt like nothing was worth putting to tape. So what he did was he hired some new bandmates, which, doesn't really show
well for the others.
Make it seem like Weezer was still a group. And he started doing shows under the band named Homie, which, solid name, thoroughly appreciate it. So he played 5 shows under the name Homie. Usually 3 of them were Weezer tryout shows, is what he called them. So it was music that he would think may be good for Weezer. And then the other 2 were Homie tryouts, which featured like weird country songs.
Yeah, right.
Which, I mean, I guess that makes sense, as we see from the Red Album's cover. Cuomo's really been a big fan of his cowboy hats. So unfortunately, a final mix was not created for these, and you can't find them anywhere really, in good enough quality to where you'd consider them good songs. But there is one completed song that exists. There's one. Do you know what? It's gorgeous. It's wonderful. It's for the classic Disney film Meet the Deedles. The tagline of that movie was "To protect and surf," which, I mean, come on, this was the '90s, so it makes sense to me. So you can listen to the song "American Girls," which is the only Homie song that was ever recorded and produced and sent out for, I'm going to put mass consumption in air quotes because it was for Meet the Deedles.
That is a Homie written song. It's not a Tom Petty cover, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, because isn't American Girl? Isn't that the Tom Petty song?
Yeah.
Singular?
Well, what's the name of this one again? Oh, okay, it's Girls.
Girls.
Okay.
With an S.
Not
a Z.
Here's a little bit of trivia.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm always for trivia.
Here's a little, yeah. Neil Young.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard, and I've kind of seen some of the songs. I know some of the songs, I think, that where he's done this. I've come across them since I heard this, but he will come up with new songs, but title them the same as other songs on purpose.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess it's smart.
They're not covers. It's a new song, but he's just. I mean, and the title of the new song might make perfect sense, but he's purposefully.
That's solid.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah.
It's a good way to do things. I'm going to write a book called Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
Yeah.
It's going to be completely different from, that J.K. Rowling stuff. Yeah, so I mean, I think it would basically work, right? Right. Okay. So, Homie wasn't working out for him. So he disbanded the group and he moved back to L.A. so he could start working on Weezer stuff with Pat and Brian. Now, since Matt quit in '98, Mikey Welsh stepped in to play bass. And this was the only album that Mikey would play on. He did do Valoria. That was his first song that he played with Weezer. But, I was looking at the AOL sessions for Don't Let Go, which, very excited to talk about the AOL session on that song. And Scott's already a part of it, so... that was when Make Believe came out, so I guess that makes sense. Cut that out, Zach. That doesn't make any sense. Shut it. So everything kind of seemed to be going well. However, things just kind of petered off, and so Pat moved back to Portland, and just waiting for Rivers to kind of get his act together and actually write songs and record. But that didn't really help. So Rivers was still in LA. He was super depressed, so he painted all of his walls black and put up fiberglass and covers on the windows, which, I mean, that's super depressing. And then he got braces on top of that, which obviously didn't help his self-esteem. I just recently did Invisalign. I just finished that up about... I don't know, like 6 months ago. And like that first month of having those, because you get these like little nubs stuck on your teeth, and you have these plastic things you shove in your mouth and it kind of moves everything around. They're removable, so they're like braces, but removable. And you feel like everybody's constantly staring at your mouth and that you can't talk because you have like the world's worst lisp. So... I can imagine for somebody who makes his living being a musician and a singer, a frontman especially, that would not be very helpful for him. So, in 1999, the band seemed pretty dissolved at that point. Everybody was working on their own projects. 98?
1998.
They said
Not 89.
Did I say 89?
89.
99.
No, 99. Okay.
1999.
I figured you got it reversed.
No. Well, I did, actually. I reversed the 99.
99 reversed is 99.
See, I was going to cut that out, but I'm going to keep it in now. So, So during that time, after, 1999, and then, when they started actually getting back to it and recording, Rivers wrote 121 songs, half of which he put to tape as demos, which is incredible. I can't imagine doing 121 of anything, Like, if we ever reach 121 episodes of the podcast, that's going to be just incredible. So during this time, so 99, 2000, in that area, when I was 7 and 8, Eric, I just thought I'd throw that out there. This little thing you may have heard of, called the internet, it just kind of took the world by storm, and it just kept growing and growing. So Weezer's fan base started connecting from the internet, and so that caused their fan base to grow. So with all of these Wheezies, as I'm going to call them, connecting, that caused Pinkerton sales to rise as well. So this led to the band landing a gig with the Summer Sonic Festival in Japan, which was huge. The rehearsals were going great, and they were ready to rock. Eric, yeah, man. So on top of that, Pinkerton itself was just, as we talked about, was huge for emo music. So it really wasn't a surprise that in 2000 they were also asked to play at Warped Tour, which, is like, I mean, I didn't go to Warped Tour 2000 because, like I said, I was 8 years old. How old were you, Eric? Because anyway, so
I graduated college that year.
Oh my god. I didn't realize.
In the year 2000.
Yeah.
I graduated college.
In the year 2000. That is a great bit. So they expected to get, booed and all that, because, they're pretty different from, what you typically see at Warped Tour. Like your Fall Out Boys, your Panic at the Discos, all that kind of stuff. Which I don't think they were around at this time, but, that's kind of the basic kind of structure. But people, loved them. So they decided to go back to the studio. In October of 2000, I switched those numbers around again, too. They were ready to record, and they were going to go with or without a producer, but because Pinkerton didn't sell very well, the label required them to have one, and so that's how Ric Ocasek got brought back in for Green. And, it was probably a good decision, honestly. So they had about 75 demos to weed through, and, Rivers decided not to write songs about himself, because he feels like that was a big problem with how Pinkerton was received. So Carl Koch, unofficial fifth member of Weezer, because I have to, every time he gets brought up in anything, it's unofficial fifth member of Weezer. So he would post on their website with updates and demos and everything. So when Rick got a hold of the demos, he, cut it down to 18 songs. 10 are on the album, 8 of them aren't. You can kind of guess which 10 made it to the album. So they wanted to package the album kind of similar to Blue. That's how we got the, basic, them standing in the, kind of in the void, the green void there. Kind of showing a return to roots. And, you can kind of see this because in the liner notes, there's a quote from Giuseppe Verdi, Giuseppe Verdi. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it's pronounced in the original Italian, which translates. I'm not gonna try to butcher the pronunciation. Maybe that'll be like a Patreon exclusive at some point. It translates roughly to "Let us return to old times, and that will be progress." So, I guess there's one for the people who think that old stuff is better. But so another fun thing about the packaging of the album, the robots from MST3K. So Tom Servo, Crow, and I think Gypsy might be in there as well. They're in the liner notes. And Best Brains, which is the company behind Mystery Science Theater 3000, is given a producer credit. So that's it's just kind of a cool little thing. I'm pulling out my oh yep, and I can't show it to you because we're not on recording or anything, but I'll put a link to it in the show notes. Down in the corner, it's Tom and is it Joel at this point?
I don't know about that. Because I haven't watched enough. I've seen it here and there. I've just never done a deep dive into.
The new stuff is pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. I really enjoyed the new episodes
with Mr. Jonah Ray.
Yes, with Mr. Jonah Ray. And Felicia Day and Patton Oswalt. Patton Oswalt's character is hysterical in that show. Anyway, so let's do a quick shift to some sad news here. The founding members of the Weezer fan club, Michael and Carly, who were huge fans of Weezer, and they kind of supported them as they from their inception as they grew. They died in a car accident in '97, so they dedicated this album to Michael and Carly, which that it's a very nice gesture, I think, and especially for two really big super fans that did a lot of good for him, honestly. So Weezer, parentheses, the Green Album, was released on May 15th, 2001. I was still 8 at the time because my birthday isn't until August. So just letting you know that. So the album was really well received. Honestly, it was, since it was that return to form, it sold really well. Critics liked it. Some thought it was just okay, which I agree with them. The fans liked it for the most part, and then there were other fans who thought, it was just full of, boring generic pop songs, and that, it was lacking that emotional depth that the first two albums have, which I agree with. But I honestly think that without the Green Album, Weezer definitely would not be as relevant or even exist today. Yeah. I think this was really a spark for them, and kind of rocketed them forward. So yeah, that's basically the Green Album. Join us next week for Maladroit. No, I'm joking. So did I tell you a good story? Wake up, Eric.
That was a very good story. No, I wasn't napping or anything. You can't see my eyes roll.
This is why we don't do, video recording as well. So yeah, we'll be starting next week. We're going to start with Hash Pipe, the first single that was released. It's going to be... I'm really excited to talk about the Green Album. There's some really good tunes on this, but...
And it was released like about a month prior, and that's according to Wikipedia. According to Wizarpedia, for some crazy reason, it's listed as the same date, May 15th. It's the album. They need they need me on their staff, I think.
Yeah. Oh man, let me tell you, Wizarpedia like
Doesn't sound right.
a lot of it really is. I thank everybody at Weezerpedia, because without them, I would not be able to get as much information as I do. But a lot of the stuff is just copy and pasted from Wiki, you know, or the other way around. I don't know. Maybe it is just Wikipedia copy and paste from Weezerpedia. But it's I was kind of bouncing between the two, and I'm like, oh, it's the same. So
But someone at Wikipedia realized, oh, this isn't right, if they did copy it from Weezerpedia to Wikipedia. So this can't, I mean, it can't be. I mean, have you ever heard of a single come out on the same day as an album?
No.
It just doesn't sound right.
I mean, look
Does
at
not
the
make
first
logical
single
sense,
for
therefore it can't be. It cannot be.
well, the first single for Van Weezer came out 6 months before.
Right, yeah.
You know, before its anticipated release
Well,
date.
that's the Smashing Pumpkins model, which is release stuff whenever you just have it done, feel like it, and then eventually collect it as an album.
Right.
Which is what an album really, in a sense, used to be a long time ago, before people really thought, okay, I have to release an album of all these new songs, going to be new and first heard. But you know, the idea of an album is it is a collection of songs that are probably out there. So,
Yeah.
Just my thoughts.
Well, thank you, Eric.
You're welcome. Thank you, Zach, for telling a wonderful little story there.
Well, thanks. I worked really hard on writing it. No, just kidding. That all came off the top of my head. I had nothing written out in front of me that I was reading from. So, Eric, are you? What are your kind of like general thoughts going into the Green Album before we've really done our deep dive?
It's, you know, for me, I mean, just a little bit of my history is that it's an album. I mean, I'm pretty sure I probably was aware that it came out because I wasn't actually in school anymore here at that point in 2001. I graduated the previous year, and you know, I had barely listened to Pinkerton. Maybe once or twice is probably all, and I certainly hadn't bought it at that point. But I was into Blue Album, and at that point, that's for sure, and loved it. But you know, I mean, it was really just, you know, it's been a while that it took until I really, listened to it more and more and more, and then just recently, you know, even the more deeper dive that I've done into some of the songs so far.
Right.
Yeah. But
yeah,
they seem much more of the power pop variety, which, in a sense, I think the Blue Album kind of kicked off. You know, I mean, you're talking about Pinkerton being like an emo, the start of emo. Well, I think Blue is kind of the start of power pop. And this is a continuation of that, I think, more so.
That's a hot take, and I like that.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of that take. I don't think it's as good of a power pop album, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, for me, it's not, it doesn't have the feels. That's
right.
for sure. But
it doesn't feels like Weezer.
it has to do... yeah, right. Okay, new show. Things that don't feel like Weezer. Green Album. Go.
This door. I don't know. I just... Mountain Dew bottle. No, yeah, no, I see where you're coming from. I listen to this album a lot. You know, I've listened to pretty much everything of Weezer's a lot. And I've always been really lukewarm on this album. And I just get less and less warm to it every time I listen to it all the way through. So
at some point you're going to be pretty cool and indifferent towards it.
Oh, individually maybe, I don't know, but as the whole album, ugh. I do think Pinkerton is better than this. I will say that. You know, like I said at the end of last season, that I do like Pinkerton. I just think that it is very problematic. So, but Green Album, it's very safe and not nearly as problematic. Well, it's problematic in different ways, but you know, we'll talk about that. So, all right. Anything else, Eric?
I think I'm good.
All right. Well,
So-
hey, thanks everybody for stopping in and listening to our podcast. Really appreciate it. We are part of the Pantheon Podcast Network. You can check us out at pantheonpodcast.com. Eric's show, Almost Famous Minute, is also a part of Pantheon Podcasts. So you've got at least 2 really good shows and then some other really good ones as well. So you can find us on Facebook, Feels Like Weezer. You can also join the Feels Like Weezer Listener Society, where we can talk about all things Weezer. Twitter, right? Do we have Twitter? We have a Twitter. At Feels Like Weezer. Send us an email, feelsLikeWeezer@gmail.com. What am I forgetting, Eric? Am I forgetting anything?
Anything personal? I think you said your
Oh, right,
handle
yeah.
at the beginning, right?
You can follow me on Twitter at The Informal Log.
And I'm at Lucky Mustard on Twitter as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, I know Eric's got to get ready for Watchmen tonight, so we better wrap this up here, huh?
What? Today's Tuesday, right? Is it Tuesday?
Oh yeah. We record minutes before I upload. That's exactly how it works. That is the funniest joke in all of podcasting.